So
why Egypt and like why Israel? Like what do you want to see there? Or
the pyramids and Luxor and just the history of Egypt, like and same with Israel, the history that's there. Like those are two places that I've always wanted to go, and then never had the opportunity to go. And now that I have the opportunity to go, then with COVID and everything, I mean, literally, like we had it all set up. Someone got sick, so literally, like we were supposed to leave the next day, and it was like we cannot leave because it was not a happy sign. So they were okay in the end, but it was like, okay, we can't go then. And then it was COVID. So, because some places I've actually saved because I want to take my kids. Like Israel, honestly, for Israel, one of the bigger ones is like I want to take my kids there. I want them to see the Holy Land. I want them to go around. I want us to go to Jordan, go to Petra, see all those things. Like, hey, we're going to watch Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. I don't know why. And then it's like, oh my God, it's from the movie. Because we used to do that to our kids when they were little. Like we'd show them movies and cartoons of places we're going to go. And then they'd be like, oh, that's the Coliseum from Bugs Bunny. I'm like, oh, I had no idea. This must be your city, buddy. He's like, yeah, it's mine. So like my oldest, who's 16 now, like I remember when he was like 3, we did that. We showed him there's an old like Yosemite Sam and Bugs Bunny, and they're like Roman soldiers. And they go to the Coliseum and they're fighting there, and it's like the whole thing. I'm like, yep, yeah, you should check that out. And then we went to Italy like the next week, and he's like you just saw his face go. And you're like, oh, I guess this is your place, man. So then he always loved Rome because that was his place. So it was kind of funny.
That happened to me once. I didn't live in the U.S. yet, so and I went to New York Central Park and the zoo.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I saw the movie, the Penguins of Madagascar or whatever.
Yeah.
And they're there, and I couldn't. That was like the only moment I was like, oh my goodness! Like, I did not expect it.
Yeah, that's the thing is sometimes there's places you don't realize they're actually using as the set.
Right.
Like like the Madagascar stuff. Like no, they actually designed it like the zoo, and you're like, oh my God, and you don't realize it. You're like, oh my God, they designed like this. They're like, yeah, we said that. It's the zoo, and you're like, no, but you really did it. Like, yeah, we told you that. Right. And that's one of those things. Like when you travel around, you're like, oh wow, huh. It's like I was in Philadelphia and they have this Rocky statue, which in the movie is like on top of these big steps, but in real life it's down at the bottom. Right. And so I had to get the picture there. I'm like, I'm not running up those steps. But then once I saw the statue, and you see everybody take the picture of the Rocky statue, and then they all go run up the stairs. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna run my fat butt up there. Okay, and so I'm like, da 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 da, running up there. And I'm like, yeah, and everyone does it. Doesn't matter, young, old, everyone does the Rocky. Right. Like, yeah. So it is kind of funny when you see it, like how you can be inspired by some of those things.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that some people don't realize is when they travel around. Like movies can be a thing that shows you a different part of the world. Like sometimes you see stuff you're like, oh my God, this is where I was. Like we were in Rwanda, and where they had Hotel Rwanda, which were saving people during the genocide 28 years ago. Like they had the sign, but where they filmed it, it wasn't the actual same hotel. But where it happened, you're like, oh my God, this is where it happened. But I saw the movie, like this doesn't look like the movie. Like no, because they filmed it someplace else.
Right.
But this is where it was. So I'm like, I'm having breakfast where these people were being saved from genocide. You're like, oh my God. Like it. Sometimes you see things. It just really impacts you. Whether you're going to the concentration camps in Germany or Poland, or you go to the 9/11 memorial in New York City. You're just like, wow, like sometimes it can really hit you. And then sometimes it can be a really great thing, like my kid with the Coliseum. You're like, oh. Or like anytime you see people coming to Greece, they come to Athens, and the first time, there's this one street, pedestrian street you walk down, and when you turn left, you see the Acropolis up on the hill, or the Parthenon on top of the Acropolis. Right. And you'll just see tourists like, da, 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 and you see their eyes go, oh, and they hit their friend, look! And it's like this one, because there's a church right there, and you're like, yeah, it's right up there. Like I should just make a video of just people like seeing it for the first time because they're so like, oh, that's what I've dreamed of my entire life. So it's funny. Like my wife, the first time she went, she actually was climbing over. She was in the middle seat, and there's this old Greek lady next to her at the window. My wife, she's tiny. She's like 110 pounds. Back then, she probably weighed like 85 pounds. She was just tiny, and she's like looking over, just crying on this old grandma. And the grandma's like petting her. It's okay, honey. She's like, I'm here, because her family's Greek and she'd never been, and so she was like, I'm here. I can't believe it. She's just crying, and like the old lady's like petting her. And she's like, it was one of those things. Like when you see people, how they can enjoy travel, how these things can really light them up and make the emotional experience. It's amazing. And sometimes you don't realize when you're traveling around, like, why are people crying at this? It could mean something very important to them. And it's I don't know. It's one of those reasons why I love traveling, because you never know when you're going to turn a corner and go, oh my God, it's the Parthenon. Oh my goodness. It's, so, yeah.